Coach Teresa Ford here, and this is the Guiding You Home podcast. This is a thought-provoking and often humorous approach to moving you closer to the only one who can genuinely help you live a life of abundance and prosperity. Sound good? Yeah, it's you that needs to go within so you can sit in the driver's seat of your life, co-creating with God. So make room for more light and knowledge. As you continue to listen, you will discover elements of how to lead with your inner light, how to act on your specific promptings, and how to follow your spiritual intuition so you can fulfill the measure of your creation. Thanks for being here, and let's dive in. Welcome back. I'm excited to get to talk about some things with you today, and I hope that you just open your mind and heart. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to take 3 deep breaths right now. Let's do it together. Ready? Woo, breathe in and let it out 3 times. That's a true exhale. Let's do it again. All the way in. What we're doing is opening your heart. Last time. Okay. When was the last time you took a deep breath? Oh, sometimes life just gets us up around the neck. We get our shoulders up by our ears and whew, breathing into truth. Nothing missing. It's one of the most important things we'll ever do. Because sifting and sorting here inside of us, that is what's guiding us home. We're coming back to ourselves. And what inspired this particular episode is that I got a DM from a very special lady. You know who you are. You're going to know as soon as I start talking. But she sent me a beautiful DM about her son. But the backstory is that she has been looking for answers. She wants to find the healing. She wants to find the light. She wants to find light with her source. She wants to know the truth for herself of what really happened in her life, not just what her fear brain, childlike mind thought happened. So as she's been seeking healing for herself, she is able to help her son, and that is the point. That is the only point of healing, doing the healing work, is that you know the truth, and then you can be the way shower for those who are also seeking the truth. Nothing else excites me more. And so her son has been going through a really rough time. Now, if you've been listening to my other podcast called Finding Me with Lorraine Nelson, the way she and I started our podcast together was she was flat in bed, crying, saying her life was over. And I was like, I think we need to talk. So she was willing to have that conversation. And she's like, my life is over. I'm in bed. My health has crashed. I lost my job. I can't even face the day. And I said, this is the best thing that's ever happened to you. And there was dead silence on the other end. And she's like, what? What are you talking about? I'm like, because the contrast of our lives is going to teach us more about who we are and what we want, and it's going to clarify our values. It's going to help us define our character. It's going to show us how to live according to our higher self, how to stop self-abandoning so we can get to the point of our lives. So back to this DM that I received, this amazing lady who was doing the work for herself and decided that she was going to figure it out, and her son went through this emotional crisis. He was dating somebody for a year, and she decided to take on a lifestyle that he was not interested in participating with. So he didn't. And it felt like death because she was sort of his safe space. Don't get me wrong. It's great to have the comfort of another, but when it becomes a dependency because you're not doing the work within yourself. You haven't done the work within yourself. You didn't know there was a need to do the work within yourself, to find your safe space with you, to find your safe space with your maker. That is the most important work you'll ever do. Because now we're not relying on the choices that other people are making for themselves. And so it feels less like death if we have to part ways with someone who is choosing a darker path, a path that does not have a better outcome than what you're hoping for yourself, right? So he chose not to go with her, and he chose to let her go on her path. Like what she's about to do, and the choices that she's making, and who she wants to hang out with, and the activities she's participating in is for her benefit too. That's the thing. We're like, oh, they're going down a dark path. It's like maybe for a little bit until they figure out that there's a better way. Let's hope they figure out there's a better way. That's the point of anything we've chosen for ourselves that didn't turn out well. It was the only way we were going to know what we didn't want, so that we could go do what we do want, right? Did I use all the tenses correctly? Probably not. But you hear my point. Like, we will know more about what we don't want by going down a path that's not good for us than we will ever know without the contrast. We have to have contrast. It must be opposition in all things. There must be. Even when it's good, better, and best, there's opposition between good and best. So, as this amazing lady was describing the struggle of her son, she even used the words, "The last 2 days have been scary for him." It is so scary when we stand on our own 2 feet. It's so scary, but only as adults. Let me take you back to your childhood. You stood up on 2 feet and you were smiling and clapping, and everybody else was smiling and clapping too. It wasn't scary to stand on your own 2 feet. It's only when we think it's scary to stand on our own 2 feet because we've been leaning on other people for our happiness for so long. So my response, once again, was like, yeah, death can be scary, but 99% of the time it's rebirth. It's not death. It's not the end. If we think it's the end, it's going to be a lot more painful unless we turn our sights to the future. It's like, whoa, then if that's not the path, that's not my destiny. I thought it was. I had a plan for it. But if it's not, gosh, what else? Like, there's a great something out in front of me, something that's going to be better than what I thought was good for me. Like, we can only conjure up this much in our imagination. It's just a little tiny bit. Our imaginations are pretty small and pretty narrow. But what we can conjure up, what life has in store for us, is so much bigger than the little imaginations we have for ourselves. It's truly amazing how life will just be like, nope, you don't want that. Nope, you don't want that. You definitely aren't going to want that. And you're going to know how much you don't want that. And through this sifting and sorting of not this, not that, not this, not that, and maybe some of this, but not with that. When all that's coming at us, we're just sifting and sorting and saying, yes, I love that my future is opening up. I have options in front of me because I am no longer stuck in a small imagination of maybe what I thought happiness was at a very young age. You know? My biggest congratulations to this young man is you didn't self-abandon you. You chose you. You let her do her thing, and you didn't make it any of your business. You chose you. And so it might have felt like death. It might have felt like your life just fell completely apart. But I am telling you, it's the beginning of a bright future. Now, it doesn't feel like let's just talk about those emotions. Sometimes when we have grief and loss, those emotions feel like they're going to crush us, wash over us, and drown us. It's never the case. It's never the case. Because we do pop back up. We pop up for air. And those great big tidal waves, they end up smoothing out. Sometimes sooner than later. Other times it's a storm, and it's going to take a little longer for the waves to settle down. But when they do, peace. Peace, and then just look up. Look up, because better things are coming. When you shift your mind and you're like, oh, I thought it was that, but it's not that. The thing I thought I chose for myself forever or for a very long time, it's not that. That's not the plan. The plan is bigger and better than I ever could have imagined. So I wrote, as I wrote back to this lady, the mom who has every intention to help her son, which she was able to do because she was helping herself. Isn't that amazing alone? And just all by itself, it's amazing. She wants to help her son as she's holding space for his emotions. She's praying for the best in him. Actually, she's even teaching him how to pray. I thought that was remarkable because he's had a hard time understanding God, have a hard time believing in God. But she asked him to pray, and they talked about what praying kind of looks like. And he tried it, and he even said it felt weird but peaceful. I'm like, wow, just a mustard seed of faith is all it takes. A mustard seed, microgram of faith, to just test it out and see what else God has in mind for you. When you're hurting, it's the hardest thing to do because you can be mad, you can be shaking your finger at God. Believe me, I have been there. I have been there. Not easy. Not easy. But you know what? God doesn't care if you're mad. He doesn't care if you shake your fist at him. He doesn't care if you blame him for all your problems. He does not care. He doesn't care. Because God is steadfast and immovable. He's not offended by your anger, by your sadness, by your blame. He's not worried about that. He's just sending more light and love, more light and love, more light and love, and you'll feel it when you're open to receiving it, period. End of story. Like, test me out. Test out these words. Test out my theory. It's been my experience. It's not really a theory. It's an absolute truth in my mind because I've tested it. I've been on the floor. I've done the crying. I've done the blaming. I've done the dying for a redo, crying, grief, loss. I've been there. And it was me moving further from him. It was never him moving further from me. So, I digress again. Back to my response. I told her that, you know, when you come into this world, what does it take for a human to be born into the world? It takes a complete transformation of your environment. A complete transformation of your environment. You go from not having to have oxygen in a warm space where gravity is not really a thing. You're in there bobbing around, floating. The temperature's perfect. You don't need to remember to eat. You're not going to fall on the floor. Like, there's no gravity. Time is not part of your world. You're just growing, and there's no effort to becoming a human. But when you get put into the human environment, well, first of all, you got to squeeze through a canal that was hard to imagine can get big enough to let your great big little head through, let alone all the shoulders in the body. It's a miracle every time. And sometimes when we're being squeezed into a new environment, a new reality, a new opportunity, it feels like birth. There's some pain. There's a lot of discomfort. Suddenly you pop out into the world. You're wet and naked and cold. And so you start crying. You need comfort. You need warmth. You need food. You need air. Like everything. Your needs become more. They become higher. And that's okay. That's called survival. Eventually it becomes thriving. You know, babies are, they adjust to their environment rather quickly. And then they're smiling and they're happy and they're progressing, they're rolling over, they're crawling, they're standing up and they're walking and running and going to school and tying their shoes, and suddenly we forget. We just forget all that we went through in the first 3 years. Sometimes it takes 3 years. Me going from on my back crying, lost, wanting a do-over, it was a massive rebirth for me. 10 years. Sorry, it wasn't quick. It's not always quick. It doesn't mean I was crying for 10 years. It just means that there was grief and loss for quite a while. Probably 6 of those years. A little less year 7 and 8. And a complete reparation 9 and 10. But still, 9 and 10, it was still 2 years of repairing where I thought I should be in life. I mean, my ideas of my life and what I was here to do were so firmly in place in my brain that my heart couldn't overcome that. Does that make sense? Like, my thoughts were so strong about where I thought I should be and what I should be doing in life and how life should be, how it shouldn't be, with such financial struggles and with a marital struggle and with parenting struggles. I just didn't plan for that. It wasn't part of my idea for my life, and it went so different than I ever thought it would. But that's an energetic thing. We can talk about that another time. But until I got my mind right about where I am in life and what my rebirth looks like and what I'm here to do, and that it brings me strength, that the strength that I feel is just 10 times who I thought I was. 10 times or more. I thought I was, here to remove my footprints from the earth and pretend like I didn't exist and raise a family. Those were my goals. Just get out of everyone's way. Don't ever make a wave. Definitely don't let anyone know I was here. Which was all conditioning from my childhood. But I did have a great sense that I wanted to have fun with my kids. And maybe there was some of that. But it's hard to assess yourself. Ask my children. They could tell you if there was any fun or not. But when we have a rebirth, and if it contains loss, guilt, shame, anger, sadness, take those 3 breaths again. Because you're just starting a new version of yourself. It's no different than when you were born. If we thought it was painful to learn to smile, roll over, dress ourselves, tie our shoes, crawl, walk, if we thought that was going to be painful, can you imagine, like, we would be like, oh, I can't get out of bed today. It's going to be so much. It's just that we think that as an adult. We think life's supposed to go a certain way because there's a social norm about how you go to school, get a job, find the love of your life, make a family, and set your riches aside for retirement. Like, there seems to be a pattern of expectation. And when your life doesn't go to expectation, guess what you're doing? You're comparing yourself. You're grieving the loss of what you think you should have had. When your life really can't go wrong. We have our free agency. We get to choose at the fork in the road. And when there's a billion of them, the fork in the road, right or left, which one are we going to choose? One of them's going to teach us what not to do, and the other one is going to be an expansion of what we knew was possible. That's a good one. That just came through. When you're learning all over again what it means to be you, when there is a reinvention happening, a recreation, a rebirth, breathe. Breathe. This is another part of the answer that I gave this sweet lady, is God put the breath of life into man, woman. He breathed life into us, and so we breathe, which is life. If we weren't breathing, there would be no life. breathe. That's the most simple answer to a really tough situation that you might find yourself in, or find a loved one in, and you're trying to help them. You're trying to help them see the possibilities of this new reality. And when you're trying to do that for yourself, breathe. Breathe. I love that I don't ever title these episodes. I just turn on the microphone and see what happens. That is the answer. That is what this episode is all about, is breathe. I think that's all you were doing when you were learning how to crawl, walk, run. You were just breathing, smiling, you know. I think I need a nap. I think I'm hungry. You're just feeling your way through life. And so those emotions that roll through, you fall down when you're trying to walk, maybe you cried, maybe you fell and hit your head, maybe you did, maybe something besides just falling on your bum came with the process of learning how to stand up and walk. But the whole time you didn't stop breathing, you weren't holding your breath, you weren't, right? When waves of grief are crashing over you, you're holding your breath. If you go underwater, literally, you have to hold your breath. But we do that when we're grieving too, when there's a rebirth at hand. We're sobbing and sobbing and sobbing, and we can hardly breathe. We're crying so hard. Breathe. Stop. Take that full and complete replenishing breath. And if you can't, reset. Put your hand behind your head. Close your eyes. Move your eyes all the way to the right until you can take a deep breath, a sigh, which is 2 breaths and an exhale, or a swallow. Reset your eyes to center. Look left. Do it again, because your nervous system is on fire when you think your life is ending. I can't talk enough about the nervous system. And I'm not going to say too much about it right now. Just reset. Reset, reset, reset until the breath of life comes back into you. Which is kind of funny because it never left you. If God wasn't in you, if He wasn't with you, supporting you, loving you, shining His light on you during a very difficult time, you would stop breathing. Breathe. And then reset your nervous system, because your body needs more oxygen. It needs complete resetting. Let me just say that this young man who let this girl go, just go down her path so she can learn what she needs to learn. I know he didn't let her go under those pretenses, but that's actually what he's doing. And he stayed true to his value system. He stayed true to what he knew was right, was good for him. This young man, his mother says that he has social anxieties and he's an introvert. Thank heavens! Thank heavens. Because it probably was the thing that kept him from going down that road with her. He's like, I can't go in those social situations. I don't want to be around crowds. Like, cause what's that going to do? That's going to put him in a situation or an environment in the future that's going to be more conducive to who he is. I used to think that I needed to be with people all the time, that I was the fun and happy girl. And that's not untrue, because I have 2 switches. I'm an introvert, very much so, where I have to recharge my batteries, because being around other people, I tend to pick up other energies. I tend to tether myself to their pain. And so it can be exhausting for me. So I do have to recharge. But when I'm on and I'm with people, I'm on. And it feels good. And we're shucking and jiving for the 3 or 4 hours that we're together. And then I have to go recharge, maybe even for a day. For an entire day before I jump back into the fray. It's just how we're built. We have to listen to how we're built. We have to listen to who we are. But those emotions that are running through us, they're not wrong. Meaning, if you think it's the end, you're going to feel the intensity of the emotions that match. This is the end for me. But when you realize that what you're choosing for yourself is to embrace your character, your values, your discernment, the thoughts about that create an emotional environment where those big, scary, intense emotions will calm down. They'll come back to almost like a high neutral. It's still got scary to it because it's really unfamiliar, but there's more of a neutral piece about it's okay. I am safe. All is well. That is what resetting your nervous system is all about. I am safe. All is well. Grounding yourself. Walk around in nature. Get that alone time. Be with yourself. You're not as scary as you might think you are. Being alone with you. Walk with God. Talk with God. He can hear you. He can hear you. Let me just say, in the spirit world, everything happens at the speed of thought. You can call in a loved one. You can talk to your spirit guides. You can pray to your God. You can call in the light of Christ. Don't have to say a word out loud. Don't have to translate it into mortal words. You just think it. Right here. God, help me. Help me. What would you have me do? What would you have me do right now? And I bet you $1,000. In the beginning, the only thing you're going to hear is this little itty bitty quiet voice, and you're like, I don't even know where that came from. Did I hear it? Did I think it? Did I feel it? I'm not sure. But it is going to say, just breathe. Just breathe. Because your life is not ending. It is not off track. It is not a mistake. It's perfect. Everything you need to know in the moment is happening. So if you'll just back up 3 or 4 steps from the pain, the emotional, the great big scary emotions that are threatening to swallow you in your mind. Step back and go, okay, if not that, then what? If that door's closing, which one's going to open next? My curiosity is piqued. I want to know what next. Be patient. Be patient, because it will unfold. It's not in a day. It's not in an hour. It's not the minute you demand it with all your tears and crying. It's not. Doesn't happen that way. Doesn't happen that way, but it does happen. You can be sure of that. So, in the meantime, just breathe. 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 Nothing less than 3 deep breaths. Let it out 3 times. Breathe in deep. Let it out 3 times. Breathe in deep. Let it out 3 times. There is a magic in the number 3. God the Father, His Son, the Holy Ghost. There's a magic in 3s on earth. I didn't make that up. I should do the next episode on the magic of 3s, because in fitness, with your body, it responds to 3s. So I think I'll do that one next, because that feels good. All right. Thank you for listening. If there's anything I can do for you, please reach out, teresafordcoaching@gmail.com. I'm here for you. And I'm not kidding about that. I am not kidding about that. You can DM me too. I always respond, because your happiness is one of my favorite things. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening. I invite you to leave your feedback and share your aha moments as you listen to this podcast. Also, you can access more information or any of the programs, courses, or worksheets that I've mentioned on these episodes on my website at teresaford.life. Or what I would really love is for you to connect with me on Instagram at teresaford.coaching and on Facebook at Coaching with Teresa Ford, so I can give you more interesting insights and further coaching to help you fulfill the measure of your creation.